Welcome to the CattyWampus podcast. I'm your host, Kurt Driscoll. I've got a great friend, Nathan Castleberry, with me today. What are some of your daily disciplines, those double Ds?
Daily discipline.
Yeah, so it's like if you're sitting there and you're looking at it, to keep that gap narrow.
Yeah.
What are a couple things that you do daily or you would suggest for folks to do that have worked?
Yeah, man. Well, I think there's not a one size fits all. So I'm not going to try to tell people it's like a chapter a day keeps the devil away with Bible study, but Bible study is definitely huge for me. You know, the reason I got this tattoo of the praying.
Well, so I know we're another pastor with another tattoo. All right. So you have praying hands.
Yep. So I haven't gotten any bad emails about these from my church.
Not yet. It's the one on your right hip that they're worried about.
Oh Lord, if I ever get a tramp stamp, man, that means I missed a counseling appointment.
Yeah.
So my son's name is Declan, and it means man of prayer because I've never felt like I was a man of prayer. Yeah. I've always been interested in ministry and theology, but my attention span's just never been great for prayer. So the biggest game changer in the spiritual side has been journaling my prayers.
That is huge.
Like that's how I talk to God because it's the only thing, sadly, that can keep my attention. So that's been a big thing for me, is just trying to get into that journal. And whether it's reflecting on things that I read or asking him for things that I feel like we need, or thanking him. I do a lot of just recognition of answered prayers. That's been huge. My neighborhood has got a little gym I love to go to several times a week, and it kind of just keeps me grounded. I like to do circuit training. I don't like cardio. Again, I don't have the attention span for it. I need something every couple minutes. So I'm not much of a runner or a treadmill kind of guy. So just a couple of times a week, full body exercise, that's a big deal. And then to circle back to creating space, one of the things that we do in our marriage that I stole from, like I said, our counselor is the marriage staff meeting, where we basically do what you said. You know, there's no, we have permission to say what we need to say, but we also do not choose to be defensive. There's no offering justification. It's purely working through, hey, where are we at financially? Where are we at with our calendar? Now let's start talking about where we're at relationally. And we just start bringing up, when this happened, it made me feel this way. So what we kind of committed to is, if it's my turn to share some things that are maybe a little cattywampus, I'm not going to do it accusatory. I'm not going to make her responsible for my emotions. I'm going to say this action maybe made me feel this way, but we communicate in a way that we're not assuming blame, because I want to assume the best about her. You know, just like I'd want her to assume the best about me. I would never intentionally do anything to make her feel that way, and I know she would do the same for me. So we bring up things, and then the only thing that we're allowed to say is an empathetic response. And a lot of times I think we're scared of that word empathy because we feel like we are somehow giving up our right to be offended, or our right to be hurt, or our right to be heard. And the thing I just have learned all that is empathy is not equivalent with endorsement. By me just empathizing and recognizing her feelings doesn't mean I'm agreeing with it or even saying that, you know, I messed up. Right. But it's just validating like her reality. Yeah, it's real to her. So I need to take that seriously whether I agree with it or not.
It's creating a space for that, man. I realized this week through that process was difficult.
Yeah.
Not because I don't want to have a conversation, but it's having to pull those things out and speak them out loud.
Yeah.
I'm removing this from the bucket. I'm removing this from the bowl, removing this, and I'm removing this. Created a space for you to share whatever it is so that I can understand what you're saying. And in theory, it says, oh, it's quick, just take things. No, it's like I challenge you, if you're watching this, get a bowl from the kitchen, put 3 items in it. It could be any 3 items.
Yeah.
Sit down with your partner, your spouse, your friend, your coworker, whatever, and sit here and say, okay, hey, we're gonna have a conversation.
Yeah.
And I'm gonna take the 3 things that block me from really hearing you out. For it's like she's like, yeah, y'all coming back next week? I'm like, yeah, no, I think I'm gonna be out of town, right? But it's the thing is, you know, you're gonna be held accountable to that, yep. Right? Like, I got to do that today. I have not done that today.
But don't you want, you know, even if it's stuff you don't want to hear, wouldn't you rather her feel safe to say that to you than some random other person?
All day long, every day. All day long, every day.
Empathy is like, I don't want the people closest to me to feel like they've got to look elsewhere for those relational needs to be met.
Right.
That God has put those people in my life for us to be that provision. So that's something that listening, you know, takes, that it requires a lot.
It really does. And it's, you know, it's not our lack of desire for one another to do that. Like we all choose that, but life gets busy, you know, when there's not a pandemic or we want to get into all anyways, when life is going on, there's so much distraction.
Yeah.
You know, my distraction, I filled, you know, poorly back in the day, but I still feel it poorly today, just differently.
Yeah.
It's just whether or not I'm willing to admit it, talk about it with accountability partners, and then have conversations with my wife and my kids. I got to create space for my kids.
Right.
Like my wife, kids, then everybody else.
Yeah.
Then I maybe return a phone call to Zach over there that's running the cameras, right?
Yeah.
But
even you as a leader, not just as a family man, but like the people that you have influence over,
yeah,
there's that certain degree of like wanting to be a place for them to know that you're not a person who's going to use their honesty against them. You know, like psychological safety is one of like the number one contributors to like workplace loyalty. You know, we're in the
psychological safety.
Yeah. Yeah. Psychological safety is the idea of like, I can contribute to the ideation. I can contribute to the strategy, even if it's the contribution of maybe a critique. I can contribute these things in my workplace, knowing that I'm safe, that people are going to have my back. That's for, at least for my generation, the least loyal generation in the workforce ever, millennials. That's one of the things that keeps them there more than pay, more than benefits, is feeling like they're heard, they're respected, and they're valued, which that only comes from empathy.
You know, you got to and it's you're intentional to create that space or that opportunity for them to feel that way.
Yeah. I had a mentor that told me, not all feelings are factual, but all feelings are real. And that's
truth. That'll preach.
Well, that's empathy. That's saying, I may not agree, but I recognize that it's real for you, and I'm willing to walk with you through that, and we'll see where it leads us.
Yeah. So speaking